So I don't know if you guys remember quite as vividly as I do this moment back when the Senate elections were going on, when Ossoff and Warnock were out there, trying to get people to come out and vote during the Georgia Senate elections, and they were promising $2,000 checks. And I was like, wow, this is a really good play. Mitch McConnell doesn't want to pass these checks. Say, if we get control of the Senate, we'll pass these checks. We'll get them right out the door, $2,000. That's what they were screaming. In fact, let's watch this mashup of exactly what they were saying.
If you send John and the Reverend to Washington, those $2,000 checks will go out the door.
We will be able to pass $2,000 stimulus checks for the people next week.
We'll deliver the $2,000 stimulus checks.
And that begins with the $2,000 stimulus.
When you send me and Reverend Warnock to the Senate, we will pass those $2,000 stimulus checks. You send me and Reverend Warnock to the Senate, we will pass those $2,000 stimulus checks.
They will make decisions about whether we give people a $2,000 check.
We need to pass $2,000 stimulus checks for the people.
For getting people that $2,000 in relief, direct payment.
Congress should pass $2,000 checks. President-elect Biden and Democrats are all pushing for $2,000 relief checks.
$2,000 stimulus checks.
$2,000 relief checks. $2,000 relief checks. They should send $2,000 checks to the American people right now.
Supporting $2,000 relief payments right now.
We need to be passing the $2,000 stimulus relief checks.
That means we need Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, who will go to D.C. to ensure the $2,000 checks.
You see ads that say, want your $2,000 stimulus check? Vote Democrat. Vote for Warnock.
The stimulus check. Chuck Schumer is trying to increase it to $2,000.
Well, I actually have a bill for that.
One of the first things that I want to do when our new senators are seated is deliver the $2,000 checks to the American families.
And the debate over $2,000 isn't some abstract debate.
$2,000 checks, so kind of actually $1,400 checks.
By electing John and the Reverend, we'll put an end to the block in Washington on that $2,000 stimulus check.
10 moderate Republicans want a seat at the table to pitch a slimmed-down relief proposal.
That money that will go out the door immediately.
What they might be willing to do is negotiate on those stimulus checks.
How can you assure Americans that relief will come and come soon?
Have you ever known anyone in the history of the United States of America that could be president and assure exactly what the Congress is going to do? That money that will go out the door immediately. And that's not hyperbole, that's real.
So you guys heard it right there. I mean, $2,000. They were screaming it from the rooftops. Great, political strategies, actually going to help people. As soon as they got into power, the tone changed a little bit. The tone went from immediate to maybe in a few weeks to maybe in a few months. The dollar amount went from $2,000 to maybe $1,400 to a small group of people if you make under $75,000. And then it went to $50,000. Now it's kind of going back to $75,000. But it's definitely not the $2,000 that they were promised. Now it's a total of $2,000, which is interesting because I didn't hear that one time in that mashup. I'm not sure about you guys, but I mean, in fact, you can look at exactly what the Democrats, their Twitter account, tweeted out. POTUS will build on the $600 down payment provided by Congress last year, sending an additional $1,400, totaling direct payments to $2,000 per person. So Joe Biden didn't give people that $600. So I don't know how he's figuring that into the $2,000 he promised after that $600 was already passed. And it doesn't really matter what their intent was. The way it was received by people was that they were going to get $2,000 and it was going to go out the door immediately because that's what they said. Well, now, obviously, they've walked that back heavily. In fact, David Sirota is saying that it's been 41 days since Biden promised immediate. And this was, I think, 5 days ago, so it might be 46 at this point. And what did the Senate decide to do this past week? Well, they went on vacation. And I understand that it's bad for Ted Cruz to go on vacation in Texas, as it's one of the worst crises in Texas in a recent history. That's horrible for him. It's unjustifiable for him to leave town as people are cold, without heat, without power, and struggling to survive. But it's also really, really cruel for the Senate and Congress to be on vacation as people are hungry and waiting for that $2,000 immediate check that they promised. That's pretty bad too. So I don't want us to lose sight of that just because, Ted Cruz is a bumbling idiot down there in Texas. We should be holding all of them accountable because there are other people struggling too. And it's not cool for Democratic Congress members or Republican Congress members to be leaving town while negotiating an already watered down bill 4 weeks past the due date that they said that they were going to get those out. I'll tell you one thing that doesn't ever seem to have a whole lot of negotiation and cutting the corners and really digging in deep to see what can be kept in and what can be kept out. That doesn't really happen on the front of military spending. And every single military bill is passed without any discussion, without any debate, any public input, and it balloons every single year. And it's, as you can see, this article says it's $934 billion now, a total. I think it's like 730 billion just to the Defense Department alone. And that's never waffled about or talked about in the public eye, but it's passed every single year, and it's passed comfortably. It's really not a Democrat or Republican issue. As you can see here, the yays were 84 and the nays were 13. So that means that there's 84 senators that are A-okay with giving $900 billion to the military every single year. But that $1,400 to you are really what should be $2,000 and what should be recurring, like most of the rest of the world has been doing. That's a little too much to ask. That goes too far out there. We can't spend that much money. We can't spend this $1.9 trillion, even though over 10 years they spent about $7 trillion on the military. But they can't cut just 1/4 of that to help you, the American citizen. And there's people like Joe Manchin. There's people like Kyrsten Sinema who are conservative Democrats, self-proclaimed, and they don't want to give you that money. Even if you're in West Virginia and you're struggling and you haven't had a job and, you've had rent bills coming due, they just keep pushing it off, rent and mortgage forbearance, but they're not canceling those charges. People haven't had jobs for months. People have been, late on rent for 4, 5, 6 months. All those bills are piling up, and they're gonna come due eventually. So they're already waffling on this bill. It's already about 4 weeks past due. They didn't put it through the reconciliation process right away. They decided they were gonna try and negotiate with the Republicans who had just completely been wiped out. They have no power in government, yet they wanted to go to them to see if they would sign on. Of course, the Republicans came back with a hilariously laughable bill, about $600 billion stimulus bill, just, basically a slap in the face, just wasting time. 3 weeks wasted on that, and now they go on vacation. So I want to call out all the members of Congress. How are you helping the American people right now when you're on vacation and people are struggling? It's not just Ted Cruz. It's all of them. And we need to be holding all of them to account. And the Democrats have complete control of everything right now. And so all these excuses, us lowly people don't know how government works, and we don't know this and we know that. Well, we know that you promised those checks, and we know that you promised them immediately, and they're not here. And that's on the Democrats, and there's no one else that they can blame for that. And they might see some repercussions, even if they do eventually get the bill passed sometime in March. They're going to see repercussions in 2022, and that'll be squarely on their shoulders. There's no Trump to blame in this case.